Good morning, afternoon, evening. Welcome back to Elite Dangerous. Since yesterday's stream, it seems that the carrier kind of sorted itself out. If any of you caught yesterday's stream, go back, watch the first 10-15 minutes of that stream. You'll see what I'm talking about. We had a bit of an issue with the fleet carrier at the start of the stream. Where it seemed to get involved in the influence of one of the other bodies it was orbiting. Or that's my theory, at least, anyway. Essentially, as soon as I tried to undock from it, rather comically, my ship just crunched down onto the deck, slid straight off, and then just kind of sank below the plane of the carrier. Which initially I just thought was a glitch. Went to the station, picked up a load of aluminium, tried to come back, and found that there was actually no way to land on the carrier anymore because I had to exceed more than 260 odd meters per second just to keep up. That's how significant it was. So pretty much as soon as I engaged the auto land or engaged the landing gear, I would just sink like a stone. And I think I made a good few attempts to try and land on it and gave up. Ended up going to Minerva, sold the aluminium I originally bought for my colony there, requested a ship from my carrier to make its way to Minerva, and then I did a cycle or two of getting CMM composites back to Minerva for the community goal until my combat ship, the Severus Raptor, arrived, and then we went shooting pirates for the rest of the stream, which you know, was mainly motivated by the fact that the carrier was pretty much out of commission for the entire stream. But I'm pleased to say that the carrier did make a comeback later on in the day. I logged back onto Elite Dangerous, did a few hours. Carrier was absolutely fine, stocked up on the aluminium I needed, and then jumped to my colony system. So I've already done a little bit of hauling back to the colony ship. We've got about 8,001 tons left to go. So that's going to be the plan for today's stream. It's going to be about 8 or 9 trips back and forth between here and the colony ship, which is not a long ride at all. It's probably only maybe a 2 or 3 minute faster than light jump. So you guys enjoy me here, we'll talk some shit. A few things I want to mention during the stream. I want to give a shout out to somebody, but I'll mention them later on. But yeah, so one of the first things I want to kind of point out is the UI that I'm now using. You'll notice there's some slight differences to the standard Elite UI, namely the ship logo. The actual hologram of the ship is now white. This is running through a third-party application called EDHM hyphen UI. If you haven't got it yet, back in the day of Elite, when it was in its infancy, there were quite a few of us doing similar things like this, adjusting the colour of our UIs, the holograms inside the ship. That was done usually by editing the files, if I remember rightly, in Elite Dangerous. So basically the way Elite Dangerous works is you've got your main server, but you've also got local files that your game uses for all the client stuff. So anything to do with your ship and your UI elements and things like that, your computer runs that. not the server. So you don't create any sort of mismatch for anyone else. It's not a mod that's going to break the game. It's not cheating in any way. It's just simply a UI change. But we used to do that manually years ago. And someone who's way smarter than I am has created a program to actually allow you to do that from your desktop in a very intuitive way, simply by either selecting one of, I think there's got to be close to 100 pre-made skins on there, different UI colors all the way through, and yeah, you can then go in and individually edit certain elements. You can even, it's so powerful, you can even edit the snowfall effect when you're in Super Cruise, and change that to more of a rainbow color if you want. There's all sorts of things you can do with it, but it's an incredibly intuitive app to use. It also has a feature that you can set a theme to each. It will auto detect whatever ships you're using, and you can set a theme specifically for that ship. And the only thing that's a little clunky that you've got to do every time, you've got to have the application open, because otherwise the hotkey won't work, but it sets up a hotkey which by default is F11 on the keyboard, and that just simply refreshes your UI elements. So when you jump from one ship to another, if you've already got a setting preset, F11 refreshes it, and then your UI elements should just pop in like normal. So I picked this theme for the Panther Clipper. I picked a different theme for my Corsair, but I quite like this one, mainly because of the lighting in it, which you'll see in a moment. So I'm gonna just get a lock on that destination. I've already filled up the carrier. Let's just auto launch here. Look at that. Launch confirmed. Nice, deep, dark mood lighting in here. Just, I don't know about other people, but personally to me, it kind of just allows me to focus out the window a little bit more, and that's all I'm looking for. So the UI is not massively different in terms of colours and things like that, but it's different enough that you notice it in certain places, like the blue reticle. That's targeting the Kier mob at the moment, so things like that I really liked, and obviously the blue accent for the EM signature under where it says I'm speeding. That also is a nice touch. So I do quite like this skin. But yeah, EDHM, Elite Dangerous HUD Manager, I think it is. Just go and check it out, honestly, if you've not already done it. Little playing around, doesn't cost you anything, and it also it's so easy to use, and if you don't like it, you can uninstall it and reset to the default theme. When you close down Elite Dangerous and restart it, you'll reset to the exact same theme, so long as that the HUD manager isn't running. There's no issues with that whatsoever. There's also some mods that it can install, just purely graphical mods, nothing that's going to break your game or anything like that. One or two of them I would consider slightly cheating. Like, I think there's a few things in there that like kind of give you a bit of augmented reality sort of thing. I don't know, I'll have to double check the list again, but I remember just flicking through it yesterday and I was thinking, yeah, that's a little bit cheaty. But hey, at the end of the day, if Frontier aren't going to add some of these elements that just, you know, quality of life improvements, is it really cheating? And especially when it's open source and anyone can obtain it. I mean, to call it cheating, it's towing the line a little bit, but you know, depends on where you draw that line. There's a few things in there that might take your fancy, but there's like even a mod in there that you can like actually tweak the hyperspace graphics a little bit. I had a look at that one particularly because I remember the days of old where it was like you'd set off in a frame shift drive jump to another system, and it honestly, it was like the Millennium Falcon when the Millennium Falcon jumps to hyperspace, and you know, all them stars just stretch past the cockpit. I remember Elite Dangerous had something like that when hyperspace was, I think it was a few years ago, but now they seem to have changed the graphics on it, and it doesn't look as good. It looks a little bit clunky to me. So yeah, go check that out. But yeah, we're just gonna drop a few loads off at the Kirmov, try and build up my colony a little bit more. There's still a hell of a lot to do. I think I might be massively underestimating this task, so I'm going to show you where this system is. If any of you guys who watch this stream, either live or after the fact, feel like giving me a hand here, do you know what? I'd appreciate it. And if you know, subscribe, drop me a DM, let me know you've done it. I'll think of some way of thanking you. You know, in a more realistic prospect. You know what I could do actually, if anybody does something like that and helps out with this project a little bit, then you know what, I'll find a way to get your name mentioned at the start of a stream or something like that. That's a bare minimum I'd do. It's not going to be a monetary prize for any of that. Unfortunately, I'm poor, so I work in the public sector, so I obviously don't get paid that much. Kind of off work for a little bit at the moment, so yeah, money is not a fun thing. But yeah, so this has just been my gameplay loop for I need to pay attention to what I'm doing. This has just been my gameplay route for the last few hours of gameplay. I loaded up the carrier, and now I'm delivering stuff. Loading up the carrier is a lot quicker than unloading it, because unloading it, as you'll see in a minute, the only way I've worked out of unloading the carrier, and I might be wrong, and this is where a stream like this is really good, because make new friends, and I might get some tips out of it. And by tips I mean actual knowledge tips, not monetary tips. I'm not. I mean, there's a couple of barriers to me monetizing this channel. One is I don't have the consistent amount of time to run something like that. At the moment I do, but in the future I may not when I go back to work. And two, I am not allowed to have a business interest out, because I work in a public sector role. I'm not allowed to have a business interest outside of work without letting work know, and they have to approve it. I could conceivably get this authorized because it's above board. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's one extra thing on my plate I'm not looking forward to doing. So yeah, we're not monetizing the channel. No intentions to do that at this moment in time, so I won't ever be asking you for monetary donations or anything like that. Yeah, so, but yeah, any tips and tricks on what to do, I'm more than happy to receive criticism and constructive comments like that. You know, as long as it's phrased in a nice way, not like a, dude, you're so stupid, why are you doing it like that? And, you know, hey, it works for me. So, let's have a look here. How long have we got left? We've got 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 hours, 59 minutes before I lose the claim in the system. It's doable. It's doable. We're nearly done with aluminium. I think I've got about 20,000 tons left of aluminium to do, which is basically one more carrier load of aluminium. And I think I picked one of the ones before of all the ones. So when you build out a colony like this, there's a lot of commodities that only require a couple of hundred units, and then a couple of commodities that require a couple of thousand, and then there's 5 or 6 ones which require tens of thousand. I'm fairly sure aluminium was one of the ones that required the most. It's definitely ones that were in like the tens of thousands, but out of those, I think aluminium was the most. So it could mean that everything else from this point onwards might actually be easier. But I'm gonna punch through it. I'm not gonna stream the whole thing because I think people would get bored. I mean, I don't get that many viewers or subscribers anyway, but I think people would get bored to tears just watching me go back and forth between a carrier and a base, hauling materials. And I said it in that monotone voice there for a little bit of comedic effect, if you didn't get it. So this is what I'm talking about, is the only way I found, besides using the carrier UI to sell this as a commodity to myself, is to do it like this. And the only button I seem to find that actually works is the left button on my D-pad, which does this. At this point, I should switch the stream to "We'll be right back" and put some hold or elevator music in there. It really is tedious. I sit here for about 5 minutes with a capacity of 1,040. I'm not even halfway, and it's already been like 30 seconds. So it takes about a minute or two to load up the carrier. In my head canon, this is like, you know, teleporters like the Star Trek transporter things, they exist in my head canon. But the ones on personally owned ships are kind of like low capacity or like slower, shall we say, than the ones used by capital ships and starports. So that's why it takes so long for me. But I mean, I don't see any other way of doing it. The only way I could do it, like I say, is to use the actual trading mechanic. And I did that for a while, but that comes with its own issues, which I won't go into. So, yeah. So it's a little, I mean, for me, early this week, because I've been waking up quite late most days, compared to the week before, where I was waking up at like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. But last night I stumbled on someone else's stream, and it's part of the reason why I haven't had this bit done already and then be back to doing something else today, because I was playing Elite Dangerous last night and doing bits of this colony hauling, and I stumbled across somebody else's stream that was quite interesting. And in the end, it actually became a very like an epic stream. I'd describe it as. Oh, are we about to get interdicted here? I think we are. Go to combat mode just in case. Are we or are we not? Because we don't seem to be... Oh well, disengage anyway. Yeah, so... I stumbled across someone else's stream, and it was very, very interesting in the fact that he's playing Elite Dangerous with a full motion simulator, 6 degrees of freedom, a full motion simulator, like sort of like if any of you are old enough to remember like the old like Top Gun arcade game that you might have at the cinema or at an arcade somewhere, the old Top Gun game. Where you strap into a pilot seat and you got joystick and throttle there, and the actual simulator itself moves. That's kind of what I'm talking about. And he plays Elite Dangerous with that. He's built himself for a fraction of the cost it would actually cost a mere mortal to actually buy. That in itself is worthy of a follow, a like, subscribe, whatever for his channel. But he was competing in Elite's version of the Dakar Rally. Now, if you don't know, yesterday there was a rally in a system about 200 light years from where I am now. I know that because I've been back and forth there a couple of times since. Whilst we were on the stream, whilst he was on the stream. And the Dakar Rally in real life was like a 10,000 kilometer rally through a desert, using like, you know, cars. Well, anybody could enter, but like it's like 10,000 kilometers from like Paris to Dakar in somewhere in the Middle East. I'm not sure what country. Geography is not my strong suit. But yeah, somebody in Elite Dangerous actually created a colony with 2 points, about 250 kilometers away on this planet that's pretty rugged desert terrain, and decided to hold a rally. And apparently there was more than 50 odd players who actually reached 20%. That's good. Yeah, apparently there's more than 20 odd players who actually participated. But this guy, he actually was participating as well. But he's the only one that was doing the rally in a motion simulator. Which, for those of you who don't understand physics as well as some of us do, that's actually harder than just playing with a controller or just a HOTAST on its own, because you've got to contend with the actual forces of the simulator throwing you about, which can make things difficult. So yeah, he was flying, or driving rather, in that. For him, he estimated it was going to be a 4-hour journey. His live stream ended up being 14 hours long, and he started an hour before the race started, the stream started. He started on the time the race started, at the start line with everyone else, and yeah, 14 hours was his stream. He died like 5 times, and I was with the stream since attempt number 2. So the start of attempt number 2 is when I joined the stream, and I was hooked. I should have gone to bed a long time ago, last night, and I wanted to see how it ended, because he put so much effort into it, and he really passionately believed that he wanted to actually cross the finish line no matter what. And hats off to him, he did it. Might have been 14 hours later, but he did it, and yeah, it was a really, really good stream. And unfortunately, one of the attempts, the game kind of stole a win from him, because I think he got within 169 kilometers. It was his best attempt yet. It was attempt number 4, his best attempt yet, and the terrain generation for the planet seemed to glitch. And he seemed to smash into the side of a mountain that wasn't there. Well, it wasn't actually a mountain, but like he made a jump off a cliff that was only maybe 10 foot high or something like that, and all of a sudden his SRV exploded, and he was on 33% hull. there was no way he should have taken that much damage. So it seemed like it was a terrain glitch, and the game probably just couldn't work out where he was, and might have just afforded him a load of damage for whatever reason. So that was attempt number 4. Now we were already like 10 hours into the stream at this point, but what a champ. He got himself composed, got himself a drink, sat back down and got straight back at it. And to see him cross the finish line at the end, when the creator of the actual system architect logged into his stream, was shocked that he was still doing it, actually logged in game, winged up with him, and in the best way that you possibly can in Elite, which for him was by kind of like doing flybys in his ship, waved a checkered flag for him as he crossed the finish line, which was quite good. But yeah, full of entertainment. But this guy, he's going to stream regularly doing stuff with his motion simulator, and I appreciate that. And at the moment he's looking to get to 500 subscribers, because he is on a journey of trying to turn this hobby of his into something that he can do more often. To do that, he needs monetization. I've got absolutely no qualms with it whatsoever. The guy is by no means any sort of freeloader. He has worked for a living for a number of years, but now he's trying something different, and you know, hats off to him. So if you fancy checking it out, I mean, it is a 13-hour long video, but I'm pretty sure you can skip to the good parts. Go check out his channel. It's Project Sim Star. That's star with 2 R's, sim, all one word. Project Sim Star. Go and check him out. Give him a follow, because he's only about, I think he's only about 70 subscribers away from his goal of 500. And last night he was getting some pretty big views. Like, he'd never had more than 30 people watching his stream. But last night, towards the end, at the finish line, there was over 140 people watching him. So he's an up-and-coming channel. I can see that happening, and he's got. It's not just like he's putting. It's probably similar content to what anyone else would do in Elite Dangerous, showing you, hauling, pirating, whatever he's going to do. But he's going to do it in a motion simulator, which is kind of cool, and it's a thought of and to be fair, the machine is impressive, to say the least. If I had the money and the space, I would have one, because there's quite a few games that I like playing that I could use that with. But just go and check out his channel. If you're watching his stream, either live or after the fact, just do him a favour. Just go and check out his channel, Project Simstar, 2 R's, Simstar, all one word. Just go and check it out. Give him a follow. Massively help him out. I mean, you could give me a follow as well, but I'm not here for the fans or anything like that. I'm just here shit talking to myself while I'm playing a game, to give me some motivation to actually do this mammoth task. And if any of you pop up in the chat window, I'll talk to you. But I mean, these sorts of things are always better with friends, and unfortunately none of my friends play Elite Dangerous. I could join the Discord and get some people to fly with me, but hey, this is more fun. Genuinely it is, because I'm learning a new software which helps my autistic brain, because it's feeding it information on a subject it's interested in. So I'm getting a dopamine hit out of it, and not just a dopamine hit out of the game, which is the dangerous thing to fall into. That's something I'm very cognizant and mindful of these days, is like gaming addiction and chasing games for dopamine hits that you should really be getting elsewhere in your life, because I have been victim of that. Part of the reason why I'm off work at the moment, he says, playing a game. But I assure you, and this is going to sound like exactly what an addict would say, but genuinely I am, I'd say 75% in control of that addiction. For me, I don't think it's more of a dopamine addiction in itself rather than an addiction to games. Because I was chasing my job for a dopamine hit for a long time, probably as long as I've had the job, to be quite honest, which is not a healthy thing to be doing, and that's what led to me burning out a little bit. So here I am, time on my hands, and this is my way of regulating my gaming activity. Yes, I'll do some gaming outside of this streaming hours, but this is my consistent amount of time sat down, playing my game, and then I go and do my tasks for the day. And then, hey, if I get those tasks done, then I'll come back and play some more games. Right, so we've got 30,000 left of aluminium to do. I'm pretty sure that number was well up 60,000. 48,000 CMM composites. That's going to be the next one. Ah, no, steel. Oh, steel. Oh, you see these numbers, you just want to cry sometimes, because you realise how much work it is. Wow. But I'm determined we're going to do it. I've bitten off way more than I can chew with this project, but I'm determined. I've started something. And damn right I want to finish it. Oh yeah, I do apologise if you hear sirens or anything like that from outside. I do live on a main road. And it is a 40-mile-an-hour road. Which means, and with it being a main road in and out of a major town at 40 mile an hour, shall we say, some of the undesirables from society tend to use it as a bit of a racetrack. And I say that with absolutely no apologies to anybody who's watching the stream who actually does that sort of thing. You're an idiot. You're an idiot, and you are going to end up in a world of pain at some point in your life if you do stuff like that on a regular basis. You can only get lucky so many times. And I'm talking from experience of somebody who has seen the carnage that happens when metal object hits other metal object at high speed, or worse, brick wall, and it isn't pretty. Genuinely is not something that you any human being should really see, to be quite honest, but I generally am a bit of an advocate of saying I think people who drive should have to see something like that. So it might make them drive like actual human beings and not toy races. But anyway, I digress. Try not paying attention. Have I got a docking permission yet? Come on. There we go. Request confirmed. But yeah, doing this with auto dock is so much nicer. Yeah, we were actually mentioning this in Project SimStar's stream last night about having auto land and auto dock fitted to your ship, and the consensus from the community seems to be that for smaller ships, why are you doing it? But for bigger ships, particularly the Panther, it's almost a necessity. And you know, if you watch my earlier streams, my first opinion of using auto land on the ship is that I like flying the ships. I do. I really do like flying the ships, and I'm playing this game to fly the ships. And to give back an element of that control to the game feels counterintuitive. However, that being said, when you're taking on such a mammoth task like this, where you've still got excess of 80,000 tons of commodities to transport from a carrier, from a station to your colony, that auto land is so nice to have, because it shaves off probably a good 5 minutes per journey, and that's 5 minutes of me not having to fuck about trying to find the landing pad, trying to line up with the landing pad, get a fine, crash into the landing pad, or anything like that. It completely negates all that. And it gives me a minute or two where I can take a sip of tea or a sip of coffee, depending on what I'm drinking today. Today's tea. And it breaks it apart a little bit. So yeah, I'm all for auto land and auto dock in this ship particularly. The only other ship I've got that has it is the Mandalay, and there's a reason for that, because my Mandalay is going to be my purely exploration ship. I'm never fitting any guns on it, never fitting any weapons. It is purely going to be an exploration ship. I've already taken it out, way outside bubble, a few days ago to go and get materials for the shot cannons, which I now have fitted on this vessel and my Corsair. Having an auto land module on that makes trying to land in difficult terrain a little bit easier. Doesn't make it perfect, because sometimes the game still can't work out its own mechanic, but it at least gives it a fighting chance to find a nice little spot for you to just plop down on, and you're done. That's why it's installed on there. Not because I can't dock at a station or anything like that, but because when landing on unfamiliar terrain of planets, which is basically what that ship's going to get used for, it's going to get used for when I do a jump out into deep space. I'm going to take my carrier out there eventually, do some exploration out in deep space, survey some worlds. When I do that, having those unfamiliar terrain, like, it'll make it so much easier landing on those planets to try and scan like life forms and stuff like that. Particularly with the planet generation engine with this game, I've noticed can be a bit of a dick sometimes in generating its worlds. Now, there's still going to be loads of star systems out there that are undiscovered. No commander, no human commander has ever jumped into. And I intend to find a couple of them when I go out there. The code is... I mean, no... I make absolutely no thoughts of how I don't know how the game works 100%, but I imagine that those worlds won't have even been generated yet. So those, they literally will not have been generated yet. It'll only be as the commander actually jumps into the system that the game will do its calculations and actually generate planets. And what I've found is a lot of planets seem to have some pretty quirky characteristics. Like ridiculous mountain ranges, things like that. I mean, the planet where the Dakar Rally was taking place last night, that was rocky, very rocky. Mountains, boulders the size of houses. It was rough terrain. I wish I'd have known about it earlier, because I would have definitely done my own stream at that time yesterday instead and joined in on the rally, because that looked like a hell of a lot of fun. Fly over there a couple of times. I don't know, I flew over there, yeah, just a couple of times actually. So I flew over there once after SimStar's SRV exploded. I felt like it could use a little bit of encouragement, and my intention was I was going to do a freedom flyby, which would have been basically me flying overhead in a ship, popping chaff, doing some barrel rolls, that sort of thing, you know, give you a bit of motivation, keep going. Couldn't instance with him, so that got abandoned after a while. But I went back as he's finishing his stream and actually getting into the station, because the intention was he was going to meet commanders in the bar after the stream, after he docked his SRV. Again, didn't work, didn't instance. Such is elite sometimes, unfortunately. But yeah, I've made 2 trips out there now. It's only 5 jumps away in the Mandalay, but the Mandalay does have a ridiculous jump range. Still getting over this cold.
Permission granted. We look forward to welcoming you to our carrier.
That's me, courtesy of my daughter.
Your docking request has been accepted. Sit back and enjoy the ride.
Landing gear deployed.
Contact confirmed. Ship secured. Welcome, Commander.
About 5,000 tons left on the carrier to move over to the what's it? Colony ship. That's the one. $5,000 tons. So it'd go a lot easier if there was more people in the chat. But if I check my window now, there won't be anybody in stream, will there? Noticing I'm getting like 2-3 views after it's ended, so maybe I'm just not streaming at the right times for people. Maybe people who do want to watch are at different times of the day. So I might try streaming at a different time, maybe later on in the evening.
Landing gear
actually at in time at the moment? Let's just take a quick look. 45 minutes so far.
All clear. Take care out there, Commander.
Cool. Probably only going to make this stream an hour and a half today. Because I have stuff I need to do, and I don't particularly want to spend all day doing this. So, yeah, yeah, an hour and a half sounds good. Gives us another about hour and about another 45 minutes. So just a bit of a short one today, but promise we'll have some better content soon. Unfortunately, this is the priority at the moment. So we've only 2 weeks to go. I need to get a move on because I'm not even halfway. And I'm pretty much halfway out of time. It's doable, but I'm gonna have to really focus on doing this and this alone. For a while.
Successful. Engines disengaged.
So we are going up 1% every so often. Every couple of thousand tons seems to take us up 1%, so... I mean, if this had just been a bog standard system, I think I'd have cancelled this a long time ago. But if I show you the system map, the reason why I want to keep this system, it's not a particularly massive system. Only 2 of the worlds have more than 1 slot for surface ports. The rest of them only have 1. There's quite a few orbital spaces to fill out, which is quite good. But this is the reason why I want to keep this world, this system. We've got 3 water worlds. Now, I don't know what water worlds will do for the economy, but this one in particular, you see these 2 here? Both of them, I'll just show you. System information. There you go. Terrestrial water world with active water-based chemistry and carbon-based water life. Same there. 2 water worlds, both in an orbit of each other. That's what this little bar means, is that they orbit each other in their own little, I think it's called a barycenter. Neither of these worlds are terraformable. Their surface pressure is way too high. I think we've got a rocky ice world with 10,000 atmospheres of pressure. That's interesting. That's like a cold Venus. And then we have another water world here with 0.6 atmospheres, which is a candidate for terraforming. So we don't know, maybe, I don't know, if Frontier ever decide to allow us to land on planets with more than just a tenuous atmosphere, that's going to come in handy, because that will be an interesting build. I'm thinking far in the future. We've also got another ice world here with half an atmosphere of pressure, but surface gravity very comparable to Earth. So yeah, this could be quite an interesting system, and it's got an M-type star. But yeah, it's mainly these two, and if I just go into photo mode for a second, look at that, and then somewhere around here, it might be around the back of the planet. Excuse me. Yeah, so these two worlds orbit so close to each other that you can see the other planet quite clearly in orbit of this one. They orbit quite close. Now, from a realistic physics point of view, that's probably very unrealistic, because I think both of these worlds are significantly more massive than Earth, which is kind of poetic, considering the name of my character, Edward Roach, who's the person who coined the Roach limit, which in physics is the kind of the limit a body can orbit in orbit of a more massive body. See there, that's what I'm talking about. You can see the other planet there is like a moonrise. Yes, so Roach limit is like the limit of distance that another planet can orbit. One body can orbit around another body while still being able to maintain its structure. So if one massive body orbits too close to another massive body, tidal forces actually rip apart one of the body, usually the smaller of the body, and then you end up with a ring system. So essentially Jupiter and Saturn both have rings. Saturn's probably the better example, but essentially the Roach limit for Saturn is where its rings are. It is true for any ringed planet. That is the Roach limit, where basically anything orbiting inside where the rings form is ripped apart by tidal forces, depending on its size, and anything orbiting below that plane is not able to maintain a stable orbit. That's basically what it is. I might be really simplifying it there, but yeah, that's essentially the Roach limit. So yeah, I named my carrier after Edward Roach. Really, because I like funny. I like a unique name for a start, but I also like it to be kind of funny. And for me, being quite interested in physics, that is quite funny to me, because carriers are a massive thing. And they tend to orbit bodies when we jump into these systems very, very close. And it's even more funny considering what happened on my stream yesterday when my sphere of influence got involved with another body, and namely a starport, and caused havoc. So, yeah. And it's also why the Panther cliff is called a Karl Schwarzschild. So, again, another physics term. The Schwarzschild, and it is Schwarzschild, not Schwarzschild. It's a German name. Karl Schwarzschild was the physicist. He's quite an interesting man, actually. So essentially, the way things go, Einstein published his theory of general relativity. Karl Schwarzschild was actually on the front lines during World War One, I think it was. Actually interested in physics himself. I don't think he was an actual physics professor or anything like that, but he read Einstein's paper and decided to write back to him. And he wrote back to him essentially solving a problem in the theory of general relativity that Einstein hadn't yet thought up a solution to, and that problem, the solution to that problem, was black holes. So Karl Schwarzschild is, I would say, there's probably a lot more detail in, there's a lot more in depth. From the way I understand it, Karl Schwarzschild, to me, is more like the father of the idea of what we now modernly describe as a black hole. He also was the person who calculated the Schwarzschild radius for any object, and a Schwarzschild radius is essentially the radius you could compress an object down to in size whilst maintaining its mass, and at the Schwarzschild radius it will then become a black hole. So essentially compressing any object down to a size where its mass remains the same, but the radius of its actual physical entity becomes smaller than this point, then it will have a gravitational pull that light cannot escape. I think for the Earth, the Schwarzschild's radius is around about the size of a golf ball. So if you took the Earth, maintained its mass, so its mass stays the same, but you shrunk it down to the size of a golf ball, it would turn into a black hole. So yeah, digressing, that's kind of why I call the Panther Clifford the Schwarzschild, because I mean, it is so huge and massive, it probably would be on the verge of becoming a black hole. Its cargo bay, definitely, the amount of stuff you can fit in a cargo bay.
Landing gear deployed. Docking successful. Engines disengaged.
Okay, we're getting there. Still at 21%. But we're making a dent. Let's say we've got 3,000 or 4,000 tons left to do.
Landing gear retracted. Ship
Probably
released.
get that done
Engine
this stream.
disengaged.
Jump the carrier back to where I'm picking up aluminium from, and then call it there for today. I will probably come back later on when I've done my errands and do a little bit more. But I don't imagine you guys want to sit here and watch all that. I'm really tempted to stream some other games, maybe to give myself a little of a break from Elite Dangerous doing stuff like this, but it kind of defeats the purpose why I'm streaming. It's kind of giving me something to kind of sort of occupy my mind a little bit while I'm doing this really monotonous and mammoth task. I say I'm not really interested in how many viewers I get, because I'm genuinely not. If I get 2 viewers, that's amazing. If I get none, I'm still going to carry on doing this. But it would be nice to have some people to talk to while I'm doing this. That's all I'm saying. And I'm mindful some people might want to see some different games. So yeah, I might stream some other games at some point soon. I'll toy with the idea for a few days and decide if it's a good idea.
This is Flight Control. Welcome to our carrier, Commander. Request confirmed. Proceed to your landing pad, Commander.
But as Panda Wacko was saying yesterday in his Project SimStar, you can't get the impossible if you don't try. I like that phrase.
Landing gear deployed.
Can't achieve the impossible if you don't try. Let's see, how are we doing here? Right, so yeah, 3,000 tons left to go.
Docking successful. Commence shutdown. Welcome to our carrier, Commander.
So as soon as I'm done with this stream, I've got a lot of housework I'm going to do because I've neglected it for a few days, and I really need to get some of it done. Comes part and parcel with some neurodiversity, is doing all that by yourself gets a bit of a struggle, especially when you've got things like this that
Cargo hold at maximum capacity.
dopamine levels to manage and things. So what works for me is having a structure to regulate that, and this can help.
Landing clamps
It sounds counterintuitive, but it can actually help. So right now I'm committed that when this stream ends, I'm going to jump on that housework and get it done. And I'm not going to come back to the game or to my TV, my computer, whatever I'm doing. I'm not going to come back to any of it until... Sorry, I just lost my bearings for a second there. Yeah, I'm not going to come back to any of it until... Oh, I've picked the wrong... I wasn't paying attention there, that's fine. Yeah, I'm not going to come back to any of it until it's done. Or at least I'm not going to come back to the game until it's done. Right, have a break for lunch. Although it is lunchtime here. It's 12:15. So... must be approaching the 45-minute mark now, but I'm going to finish these 3,000 tons because it's only about 3 or 4 trips. And then we're going to go and do that. But yeah, that's how I regulate myself, is kind of sticking to a bit of a structure like that. And I do have an app that helps me out with that. So if you are neurodivergent, or you're suspecting you are, first of all, I highly recommend, if you're an adult, you go get tested. In your jurisdictions it might be different, but here in the UK we have something called Right to Choose, which is a service provided by the NHS, where essentially, because for as long as I can remember, waiting lists for assessments and diagnosis for neurodivergent diverse conditions is extremely long, bordering on several years to obtain any form of diagnosis. What the NHS have managed to do through passing some new legislation in the last few years was actually reduce that time down significantly. Now, depending on which route you take, you could be looking at a wait of around about 8 months, which is massive considering years ago, you know, you'd be looking at a couple of years at least before you got anywhere close to a diagnosis. But essentially the way it works is you go to your, if you suspect you've got that condition, you need to build some evidence first, so take some tests, some kind of recognise online tests, and then go to your doctor with that evidence, and there's a proforma letter that you fill in, and you can actually choose your healthcare provider, essentially. So essentially the NHS then has to refer you on to a private consultant free of charge for you to be assessed, which is really, really handy. And yeah, so that's something I'm doing at the moment. But yeah, I highly recommend that you do something like that first of all, because I was in denial about it for pretty much all my life. There's clearly some sort of condition that I have. I won't call it a disability because it's not. It doesn't disable me as such. It does in some ways, but in other ways it actually benefits me. But I don't like the term of a disability or a disorder, personally. Condition? Yeah, I can get behind that. Hey, we got up to 22%, that's good. So yeah, get yourself tested if you've got any suspicion of it, because to you it might only be a diagnosis, a label, which, yeah, I get that, because that's exactly what I thought. But depending on your line of work and the legislation in your jurisdictions, it can be claimed as a registered disability, which can give you certain protections under protected characteristics, equality and stuff like that. Particularly in the UK, we have protected characteristics under the Equality Act, and like, disability is one of those characteristics, which means it is unlawful for anyone to discriminate against you based on that characteristic. So for instance, me at work, if someone chose to pick on me, like management chose to pick on me, like, you know, put me on development plans or whatever. If they chose to do that, and I thought it was due to my disability, potentially I've got a case to answer for an unfair tribunal there, but that's just a little bit of protection in any case. But the main reason is that the more you understand about these things, and the more you look into it, I think the easier it can be to manage. Particularly as in my case. Now obviously things like autism are a spectrum. It's a spectrum because symptoms vary wildly between different people. Of course, on one side of things you've got people who are autistic who are non-verbal and unable to really function as a normal adult. They're extreme cases, but there's a lot of people out there who are mildly autistic, which is what I believe I am, that can function pretty much normally for the most part. But they find certain things hard to do, particularly in social situations, and that's kind of where I come in, is regulating things like that for me, like stresses and things, is very difficult.
Let us know if you intend to land here.
Because I've been masking it for so long. But yeah, I honestly, if anything, you got any suspicion of anything like that, just go and see a doctor, because my quality of life right now, and it's only been two months since I accepted that there might have been an issue. About 2 months. My quality of life is through the roof. Things have got so much easier for me just by accepting that there might be something I need to investigate, and there might be some changes I need to make to my personal life in order to adapt to living with something like this that I haven't been doing for my entire life. Because of that, my quality of life has been improved massively. I can't even describe to you the things I am able to do now very easily that previously I have found almost impossible. Like, for instance, spontaneous days out with friends and stuff like that. A friend of mine yesterday spontaneously out the blue invited me to come to his house and cook. As silly as that sounds, yeah, he wanted to take on a recipe, which actually is a really good recipe. Gordon Ramsay's curry in a hurry. If you searched out on YouTube, that's the recipe we attempted yesterday, and we did. It came out really, really good. But yeah, he wanted to do that, and he wanted a hand doing it. So just came out the blue and asked, "Hey, do you want to come round, have a brewski, and we'll give this a go?" If you'd have asked me to do that months ago,
Cargo hold at maximum capacity.
I'd have turned around and made an excuse and gone, "No, I can't do that," because something else would have been taking my attention for dopamine. Now, I'm of the opinion that those are things I should be grabbing with both hands. Because I've got the capacity to do it. I've got the capacity to accept things like that in my life now. It's all a journey. I'm liking where my journey's taking me at the moment.
All clear. Good luck, and fly safely, Commander.
So one thing about a Panther Clipper I don't like is this when you initiate a roll, look how sharp that is. Like, you character's head is almost snapping at that. That shouldn't be doing that, surely. I don't think any of the other ships are that violent in roll. But this ship doesn't roll particularly fast either, so surely it shouldn't be that violent. Hope that's something they're going to patch out over the next couple of months. So I'm almost certain none of the other ships have that level of... That's ridiculous. And it's off-putting sometimes when you're trying to read elements of the UI and you're also trying to fly the ship at the same time, and you put in some input and then all of a sudden, hey, I can't read that anymore. In VR it'll make you feel sick, guaranteed. But then again, head bobbing enabled.
Docking request granted.
Okay, second to last delivery. We're nearly there. Which means in the last 24 hours I've delivered... I think I jumped into the system with nearly 20,000 tons to deliver. So yeah, I've nearly delivered 20,000 tons in the last 24 hours, which is pretty good. And to be fair, for most of that, that delivery probably took me a couple of hours at a time.
Landing gear deployed.
In total amount of time I've actually been committed to doing this, because I've been doing a couple of other things in Elite Dangerous at the same time. One of the things I like to do, though, it's not feasible to do it from here, because by the time I get my carrier to where I can pick up some CMM and stuff like that,
Docking successful.
the carrier will have jumped.
Disengaged.
It'll take more than 15 minutes to get there. But on the return journey, so I'll jump my carrier to the system where I'm picking up aluminium. On the return journey, when I've filled up the carrier, I'll jump it back here. What I've been doing, just to give myself a little bit of extra cash, and you see I'm nearly at 2 billion credits, is I jump the carrier, I set the carrier to jump, and then I take off in the Panther, and I head to Pollard Sanctuary, pick up some CMM, and then go deliver it to Starlace. That journey of about 3 jumps is just long enough for the carrier jump sequence to run through. So by the time I'm done with that delivery and I leave Starlace, the carrier is usually arrived here, which means that I then jump here, which is about 5 jumps. I go here, refuel on the carrier, pick up my commodities and deliver them here. So in this return journey, I'm going to be riding the carrier back.
Engines engaged.
We won't set it to jump just yet because I'll set it to jump on the way back from the Kirmov. Because if I get interdicted by a pirate randomly, which, knowing my luck, will happen, I'll miss the jump, and then I'll have to fly all the way to go meet up with the carrier later on, which ain't detrimental, but I don't really fancy doing it. Don't intend to keep the stream running while the carrier's jumping, if I'm quite honest with you. There's plenty of videos out there showing what a carrier jump sequence is like. If you want to see what a carrier jump sequence is like, then just go watch one of them videos. it's an extra 15 minutes. But it can take upwards. It can take up to an hour to jump a carrier, to be honest, depending on the demand on the servers, which you don't know until you initiate the jump. So far, I've got pretty lucky, and the longest amount of time I've had to wait for the carrier to jump is about 25 minutes. Because essentially what happens is that when you initiate the jump with a carrier, you enter a queue. So all the carriers, if you didn't know, if you're not familiar with Elite Dangerous, all these fleet carriers, you can't control them. If you own them, if you own one, you can't control it in a sense of actually fly it around, but you can instruct it to jump to any system in the galaxy. It has a maximum single jump radius of 500 light years, so long as there's a system within 500 light years of your current position, you can jump immediately there, and it's almost an instantaneous teleport, if you will. Now, the way you do that is through the carrier management menu. And essentially, it's like plotting a jump on a star map. You select the system you want to go to and you jump there. If you've already been to that system, you've got an additional capability of being able to jump to a specific, into orbit of a specific body in that system. If you don't know the system, if you've never been there, or you don't have the exploration data for it, or you haven't downloaded the nav data, whatever, then you can't do that. You basically are bound to either jump to the star in that system, or wherever there's a free slot, because each planet, each body has so many slots. Sorry, coughing there, still getting over this cold. Each body in the system only has so many slots for fleet carriers. I think the maximum is 16, depending on the size of the body, and it goes downwards from there. So you initiate a jump for the carrier, and so long as the game recognises there's a free slot available and you've asked for it, it will kind of what's the word? It will reserve you that space, that slot, and it will put you into a queue, because the server is managing everyone's jumps in real time. So you don't have to wait for a server refresh or a system update for the carrier to move position. It jumps in real time. So you enter a queue while it manages that, and then essentially there's a countdown timer that runs for a minimum of 16 minutes. So 16 minutes is a 1 minute. Yeah, 16 minutes is the minimum, and then it can go up to an hour depending on how much demand that server's running, because it runs them in a queue one after the other. It doesn't jump. So essentially at any given point there is only one fleet carrier actually actively in a jump at any time, in theory. That I might be wrong on that, maybe the system can handle a couple more, but that's basically what the system does, is it jumps carriers individually one after the other in a queue system. So if I initiated that jump and it took 15 minutes, for instance, if there was a lot of demand on the server, it would take a lot longer. So I will show you me setting it up to jump, but I'm not going to jump it myself. I'm going to ride on it. I'm going to dock with the carrier and then log out of the game and then come back to it later. But yeah, I'll show you me initiating a jump, and then if you're in game, I'll show you what. If you're in game, you can then come visit my carrier if you want to. not going to set up the commodity, the trading side of it to accept the commodities that I need. If you want to help me out with that, you can come to my star system and just drop them off directly. It's not a massive distance away from anywhere. I think it's about 200 light years or something like that. It's not a massive distance if you've got a decent jump range on your ship. Or hey, come jump your own fleet carriers into my system if you wish to do so. No issues with that. Not that even if I had an issue I could stop you anyway, but... Right, so this is our last delivery here
Docking request granted.
today. I think we've made about 3% progress. Next time I try to build a colony system, I'm picking a smaller starport. Probably an outpost as my first one. Just to secure me that system. For this system, being that this is the location, the starport, the primary starport was going to be built between these two water worlds, which are really photogenic. I felt I had to make it a decent starport. I could have quite easily gone for an Orbis, but I've gone with the Ocellus, which actually is the most expensive. That might come with some other caveats too, I'm not sure. Apparently there's something to do with the kind of like the build tokens that you get from each starport. I'm not sure how that gets affected, but we'll see. Right, let's deliver these 800 materials that I've got in my hold. 821. Oop. And then I'll update my spreadsheet, and then we'll set the carrier to jump. Hey, 23%, so we've actually made, I think, about 4% progress. I think I was on 19 when this stream started, so we're nearly a quarter of the way there, which is pretty good. So I reckon once aluminium's finished, or computer components, I need to go find some of them, and I need to find some water. Once aluminium's finished, then we'll be at a quarter. So we've got 16 days. So actually, that's a more accurate time of that, isn't it, than the 2 weeks? So I've got 16 days, 1 hour and 45 minutes to complete this station, which is doable. It's definitely doable. Right, setting the carrier to jump. It's carrier management. I think this will give me remote access, won't it? Yep, remote access, doesn't matter. Navigation. So that's my current location, call 285 sector, Mike Quebec, Mike Bravo 8-5. That's my system. Plenty of fuel. Haven't needed to top up yet. These carriers are hella efficient. And I've got a bookmark set. I like to keep my bookmarks nice and tidy. So, a carrier station. The Tiangji system. And then I go to system map. And we'll see if we've got a slot available. If we've got a slot available, ideal. If not, then... Right. 12 carriers, let's see. Can we get in there? Yes, we can. So, because I selected the body and not the system, my carrier is going to jump to the orbit of that moon, which is basically exactly where I was earlier on. So you can see there now we've got 15 minutes until the carrier jumps. Landing pad lockdown happens in 11 minutes. So that's kind of why I didn't want to So I need to actually get back to the carrier, don't I? So that's kind of like why I didn't want to do this earlier on. Because the landing pads will actually lock out at 11 minutes. In 11 minutes, I will not be able to dock with my fleet carrier. And that's also past the point where I can cancel the jump. I think I can cancel the jump. I have to check this actually. I was under the impression you can cancel the jump up till 3 minutes to go. Actually, yeah, that'd be right, because 11 minutes would mean there's 3 minutes left on the timer. So, yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. So, at 11 minutes, you can't cancel the jump anymore because it's already been initiated, essentially. But you can cancel the jump up till that point. It doesn't cost you anything to cancel the jump or anything like that. It does cost to jump the carrier. I think it's 100,000 credits per jump, and that's just a maintenance cost. You don't pay it right away. It essentially invoices you every week. So there's an upkeep to your carrier every week. That basic upkeep, I think, is around about 13 million credits or something like that. Somewhere around that ballpark. I don't know the exact figure off the top of my head, but then you add on costs on top of that. So there's some costs for whatever modules you've got fitted to the carrier, so shipyard, whatever. And then there's also the maintenance cost for jumping the carrier, which is the 100,000 credits per jump. In Elite Cannon, it's essentially a weekly maintenance cost. So the more the carrier jumps, the more maintenance you're going to do, because the carrier gets a little bit of wear and tear every time it jumps.
This is flight control. Welcome to our carrier.
On a vessel this size, 100,000 credits is
Carrier jump
not
sequence has been initiated.
a massive amount of
Docking
money.
request approved. Head to your allocated
If you
path.
think about how massive these things are. See, departing in 12 minutes 38 seconds, so I've actually only got about 1 minute 30 to dock with the carrier
Your docking request has been accepted. Sit back and enjoy your ride.
before the landing pads lock down.
Landing.
Yeah, so you think about how large these things are, and you think about the cost of repairing real-life warships. 100,000 credits is nothing. That's basically just cleaning out something, isn't it? But that cost can stack up over a while. I think the most I've had to pay on a weekly rotation for my carrier has been 70 million credits, something like that so far. But I was jumping like, I think I jumped about 11 or 12 times that week. And to manage that cost, go to the carrier management menu. This will look different now because I'm actually docked with a carrier, so I've actually got a few of the carrier. In the budget menu, you see there I've got a balance of 71 million credits, so it's got its own little bank on the carrier. You just deposit some money in there. You also manage things like service tariffs, so I've got mine set. I've got mine set at a very reasonable 15% for all services. It's just a little upkeep. I mean, you probably wouldn't notice it if you docked with my carrier and used any of my services. 15% of 200 is nothing. But it goes into my bank just to help carrier run a little bit. But yeah, you see that in a weekly upkeep at the moment is nearly 20 million credits. So that's 5 million core assets, 8 million, 8.5 million for the modules that I've attached. Projected costs, I'm not quite sure what that is. But then, yeah, the whole maintenance there you see is the 2%, 300,000 credits for 3 jumps. That will go to 400,000 at the completion of this jump. So yeah. Not too shabby. So yeah, we're gonna go pick up some more aluminium offline later on once I've done my chores, whatever I need to do today. So yeah, thanks for joining me. If you joined me in this stream live, I haven't been keeping an eye on my view account. I don't tend to do that at the moment. Don't know if I ever will, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, we're pretty much on bang on an hour and a half there, so an hour and a half, 1 hour 36 minutes. That's not too bad. But yeah, thanks for joining me. If you join me in the stream at any point, or if you're going to watch this after the fact, I do appreciate it. Either way, you're listening to ramblings of a madman playing a video game. So, who's the sadder person now? Not me, you. I'm joking. Yeah, so I'll work out something else to do next time. I try and keep these a little bit fresh and fun every now and then. But yeah, there is a mammoth task I've got to do, and unfortunately there's no way getting around that. I'm going to have to do it, because I do not want to lose this system. It's quite a nice system. So yeah, thanks very much for joining me, and I will catch you